The world of reading. Reading is a crucial skill in today's world. It is a requirement for everything from working most jobs to playing games to driving a car to voting. There are few activities or jobs that don't require at least some reading. To that end, schools spend years teaching students how to read, and for the most part, American schools are fairly adept at doing so. The nation is close to a 100% literacy rate, but schools have been less successful at teaching us how to enjoy reading, and this is a shame, for reading, in fact, helps us become who we are. When you teach your child to read, you teach him or her how to open a world of imagination and knowledge that would otherwise be closed to him or her. And once that door is open, children can go down paths to find interests they did not even know they have. These interests lead to more reading and then to more love reading. See, the whole thing snowballs. This is why children should be encouraged not just to read for school, but also for pleasure. Although reading can help a student find interests and creative passions he or she never even knew existed, let alone possessed. As a writer of children's books, I am of course biased. I would love for children to enjoy reading so that they want to purchase my own books, but I am also a concerned parent, hoping to help my son discover himself. I often speak to other parents about how reading can shape individuality. I remember when I was a preteen, I picked up a book about the rock star Mick Jagger, whom I had a huge schoolgirl crush on. In that book, I found that Jagger was inspired by old blues musicians, and so I picked up books on the blues. That led to books by others who were also influenced by the blues, and years later, I was obsessed with the work of Toni Morrison, Ralph Ellison, and August Wilson. Without the initial interest in a silly little biography of Mike Jagger, I would never have discovered my love of literature and my true calling to write books. Without a love of reading, I could very well be a completely different person from the woman I am today. Based on its use in paragraph 1, the word adept most nearly means skilled. The other argues that reading helps people develop as individuals, is something most people enjoy, the most important skill one can possess. I think helps people develop as individuals. It doesn't really sure that everyone enjoy reading is the most important skill one can possess. I think A. Yeah. The main function of the first sentence of paragraph 3 is to. As a writer of children's books, I am of course biased. Main point of view: anticipate a likely objection to the author's argument, provide background information on the author and use it to prove she is an expert in a field, describe a potential problem with her argument and a way of fixing it. Main point of view: anticipate a likely objection to the author's argument. Objection, what does that mean? Objection mean a protest or disapproval of something. To prove she is an expert in her field. Background information. Anticipate a likely objection to the author's argument. In the first sentence of paragraph 3, the other writer is that, as a writer of children's book, I am of course biased. In doing so, she is acknowledging that someone might tell her that her opinion is invalid because of her obvious bias. No one ever calls her out on this, because a reader cannot respond to a writer. She anticipates this response and objection. The rest of the paragraph is spent explaining why that objection is invalid because of joints. Would most likely agree with which of the following statements? Which of the following is true for the other? Oh, Ralph Ellison. Oh, writing books about the blues. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. She read a book about a rock star she admired. It's pristine. She has a daughter. Daughter? No, she has a son. It can be assumed from the passage that Toni Morrison, Ralph Ellison, and August Millison are famous blues musicians, writers inspired by blues music. Okay, I will do another quiz. So I want to level up my skill reading, so I'll do another quiz as well. Flower power. Interesting topic. But first, I need to read it in silent because whenever I read it aloud, I become really distracted. So just wait me for a minute so I can run through this text and I'll come back right away. Oh, I think this text is kind of easy, so yeah, I can read it aloud now. As a child, Mary had wonderful memories of her grandmother. They did so many exciting things together, swimming in the ocean, flying kites, making snowmen in the front yard. But when her grandmother's health began to deteriorate in the fall of 1994, Mary knew that their time together was limited. Every few days, Mary would make the drive from Washington, D.C. to Winchester, VA, to visit her grandmother, who was staying in a hospital there. Mary hated highway driving, finding it ugly and monotonous. Monotonous is actually a new word for me, and that means dull, tedious, and repetitious, lacking in variety and interest. Okay, I'll take a shot of it, so I'll write that later. When she drove to the rocky town of Harper's Ferry, monotonous in the second sentence. She preferred to take Mannering back road to the hospital. Mentoring, what does that mean? I think it may be a means of transportation or something. Or a road. Yeah, it's following a winding course, maybe around the lakes or something. Back road to the hospitals, where she drove through the rocky town of Harper's Ferry. The beauty of the rough waters churning at the intersection of the Shenandoah and Potomac rivers always captivated her. Churning. Oh, wait. Look it up, and that means... I'll need to choose the most appropriate meaning in this case. I think this means turbulent or sore. Yeah, that's the most sensible one. And rivers always captivated her. Captivated here means to interest someone, to trigger interest in someone. Toward the end of her journey, Mary had to get on Highway 81. It was here that she discovered a surprising bit of beauty during one of her trips. Along the median in the highway, there was a long stretch of white flowers. They were thin and delicate and purple. They swayed in the wind as if whispering secrets to one another. Well, just imagine it. It's such a breathtaking view. The first time she saw the flowers, Mary was seized by an uncontrollable urge to pull over on the highway and yank a bunch from the soil. She carried them into her grandmother's room when she arrived at the hospital and placed them in a water pitcher by her bed. From a moment, her grandmother seemed more lucid than usual. Lucid? Oh, it means expressed clearly or easy to understand, more bright or luminous. She thanked Mary for the flowers, commented on the beauty, and asked them she had gotten them. Mary was overjoyed by the ability of the flowers to wake up something inside her ailing grandmother. In poor health. Alright. Afterwards, Mary began carrying clippers in a car during her trips to visit her grandmother's. She would quickly glide onto the shoulder, jump out of the car, and catch a bunch of flowers. Each time Mary placed the flowers in the pitcher, her grandmother's eyes would light up and they would have a splendid conversation. It was a chilly morning in late October when Mary got the cold. The man at the hospital calmly informed her that her grandmother had taken a turn for the worse. Mary got in a car and headed to the hospital. She sped past the place where she usually stopped to pick the flowers. After continuing ahead for about a mile, she put on her emergency light and pulled onto the median. She re-entered the highway going the opposite way. When Mary arrived back at the flowers, she was surprised to see how many of them had withered and turned brown, probably as a result of the cold. Nevertheless, she spotted a patch that bravely returned the vibrant purple glow. She cut a few of them and hopped back into a car and headed for the hospital. When Mary arrived at the hospital, she found her grandmother very weak and unresponsive. She placed the flowers in a pitcher and sat down to hold grandmother's hand. She found a slight quiz on one of her fingers. It would be the last conversation they ever had. Based on the things Mary and grandmother did when she was a child, it can be understood that Mary's grandmother enjoys spending time outdoors because most of these activities are outdoors taking place. So C, the correct answer. As used in paragraph 1, which is the best synonym for deteriorate, antonym means the opposite meaning, and that means to improve, right? Improve. As used in paragraph 2, the word captivated most nearly means fascinated. In paragraph 3, the outer lines, they sway in the wind as if whispering secrets to one another. Which of the following literary devices is used in this sentence? Metaphor, characterized by the comparison of two unlike things without their use of like or as. This often involves taking a concept or entity that is clearly understood and applying it to a second, less well-known element. Alliteration, characterized by the use of alternate words to begin with the same sound or letter, creating a repetition of similar sounds in a sentence that are used to add character to writing and often adds an element to playfulness. Authorial intrusion, characterized by a point at which the author speaks sound directly to the reader. Authorial intrusion establishes a one-to-one relationship between the writer and the reader, where the latter is no longer a secondary. Definitely not the correct answer. Personification, characterized by attributing human traits or characteristics to inanimate objects or animals. So D, definitely. Which best describes what the act of stopping for flowers on the side of the highway became for Mary? It's a ritual, right? A ritual. Like she gets used to it and she needs to do it as a habit. As used in paragraph 5, which is the best antonym for lucid. Lucid here means to confused. What do the flowers come so signify for Mary? Compose herself to connect with her grandmother, a way to make the hospital room more pleasant. I am missing up between, the B and the C. To compose herself. What is compose, right? Compose means, compose, in my opinion, it means to create a piece of music or something like that, but definitely has some kind of other meaning. So we need to understand deeply what that means. So this question would not be wrong. Constitute or make up a whole, calm or settle oneself or one's features of thoughts. Signify mean for Mary, an opportunity to compose herself before visiting her grandmother, a final chance to connect with her grandmother. This is my last chance to level up my grade because tomorrow I will be really busy doing my my exam, so I just don't really have time for it. Let me read it again. Okay. Yay, got the perfect score. Let me see my progress here. It's been ages since I last did a thing that is correct.